Man, it's a real wild thing, man. Like, climate change is just totally divisive, you know? Um, I respect Premier Kinew and the NDP government that he's formed, man. Like, they're just fucking light years ahead of any other provincial government. And, and I understand your political game. It's just still triggering, though, to hear, a fellow Nietzsche that I grew up with. Like, we literally grew up together when we were younger. And it's just wild. I don't know. To juxtapose what I've been up to for the last 30 years against the current conversation or the discourse in the media right now around the energy corridor and a trade corridor to Churchill, and what the implications of that really are. I've heard, I've only heard rumors. I think some money needs to be invested by the nonprofit sector and some wealthy donors to really do the research. There's a bunch of NGOs out there that do that kind of corporate research, but to find out who all the, special interest groups are, stakeholders, that are part of the Arctic Gateway Initiative, that's the consortium of businesses that own the Port of Churchill and that profit from the life of the port. So, I've heard rumors of a northern train line from the coal fields of Alberta to Churchill for the export of coal. I've heard rumors of LNG export, which, requires massive infrastructure on the coast there. And I don't know if you've seen those super LNG tankers, but they're fucking like 10 times bigger than oil tankers. And it's just insane the scale of what we're talking about in terms of exporting gas. And then, of course, tar sands is always in the conversation. And the export of tar sands, that rail line, that northern rail line could also ship tar sands crude to the Port of Churchill, along with, some kind of tri-cherry proposal of LNG, tar sands, and conventional oil pipeline infrastructure with a condensate, pipeline on the way back, for ships coming in that could dump condensate and then pick up oil or tar sands. It's just like science fiction shit, man. Like, I literally have a book that I'm fucking working on, and it's a screenplay actually, about this. And it's just wild that it's like Wab Kinew, the one is initiating that conversation. The culture shock. But what I've told everybody is that, during the first term of Obama, everybody fought so hard to get him elected, and when he got elected, people thought the fucking world was just going to change. But that just wasn't the case. Under Obama, he deported more, undocumented people, killed more children with drone strikes in the Middle East and North Africa, and, fucking turned the United States of America with his everything under the sun energy bill into the biggest exporter of oil and gas on the planet. They surpassed Russia under Obama. And that's because the left just fucking let him run with it, and he got cannibalized by the lobbyists in that first term. And we had to fucking fight him right to literally the last week of his presidency to get him to reverse the decision to support or the permit for the Keystone XL pipeline, a campaign that I was a part of for many years. And, the left learned a lesson from that scenario, because that's what we're facing here in Manitoba with the Kinew government. Is the best way to support Wabanaquit is to protest the shit out of the crazy shit that he's saying in this era of climate change. It's super fucking insensitive to be talking about pipelines to the north and trade corridors and all this stuff when, literally 21,000 registered with the Red Cross evacuees are here in Winnipeg and spread out across cities across the country. And, this just demonstrates how violent and unpredictable climate weather-related events are and how they are increasing, because this is the second time my nation has been 100% evacuated in less than 3 years. And, this government's talking about fucking pipelines when we should be talking about northern infrastructure, about refunding the Northern Firefighters Program, about water bombers and infrastructure, highways, like so people, can get away from this new climate reality of raging, fucking climate fires from May till fucking, whenever the fuck they stop burning, like whenever it snows. It's just real science fiction, folks. And, just emotionally, I just wanted to do a rant a bit. We need, one thing that's very clear is there are organizing corridors along all of these proposals, including the ones in the Northwest Territories. They want to build a highway right through a caribou capping ground up there, all again to Churchill. This is all for the export of rare earth minerals. Okay, this mining renaissance that our premier is so nuts over is something that's happening across the country. And this is high carbon intensity, water destroying, food security disrupting, massive, development, extractivism. And indigenous peoples are in the front line of that, and the impacts of the climate change that type of development is driving. And, we see that now with, the 30,000 plus people, more predominantly indigenous, that have been evacuated in the provinces of Saskatchewan and Manitoba, more across the country, I'm sure, this fire season. And so, Manitoba, we, really need you to stand up. Labor, social movement sectors, need to be cross-pollinating and talking across, boundaries and, really taking a good hard look at this current reality that we're facing. We can't let shock economics from our biggest trading partner, the USA, allow the neoliberal hawks of Canada to fast track, all kinds of crazy military spending and, energy infrastructure stuff, all at the request of big oil and, President Trump. We need social movements now like never before to stand up, to protect the public, the commons, to fight against the commodification of life, of our ecosystem, of the atmosphere. And, we need to start making the connections between climate justice and colonization and, reparations and truth and reconciliation, because those things are all inextricably linked. So anyway, I wish you the best. I'll see you in the streets and out on the lands.